Hello and welcome to this MSP Voice webinar series. Today I am joined by Matthew Rodela from Tech Blog Builder. He's going to give us the anatomy of an effective MSP blog post. A couple of housekeeping items. If you have questions, utilize the Q&A panel here on the GoToWebinar. This is being recorded. It will be available via YouTube sometime next week, so don't worry about that. If you can't stay for the whole thing, you'll be able to catch the recording on the MSP.com blog. And I'd like to thank our sponsor, Cloudberry, cloudberrylab.com, for one of the best cloud backups you can get. With that, Matthew, let's turn it over to you.
All right, Doug, thanks for having me. Excited to be here to geek out on blog posts and content marketing and stuff that some folks consider not in their wheelhouse, or something that is annoying that is there, and that's always kind of, people are saying you got to blog more, or you got to get blog posts out there. So we're going to kind of talk about why people say that, and some of the benefits of blogging, and then we'll dig into, okay, so we understand blogging is something we want to be interested in, and it has benefits. So then what? What makes a good blog post? Mm-hmm. And we'll dig into that. So hopefully folks can learn something and take away something from this presentation and start applying it right away.
Cool.
So that's basically what I just went over. So we'll do a quick intro here, talk about why blogging is important, and then I've got eight parts of an effective blog post. So we're going to kind of break it down into some separate components that I think every good blog post should have, and then we'll kind of close things out with some blog topic ideas, because that's a big thing that people tend to get stuck on, is what am I going to write about? And so we give you some stuff, some wells that you can pull from consistently, that you can, if you can't think of a topic, just go to one of these wells to pull something out, and you should have constant inspiration for blog posts. And finally, we'll close things out just quickly mentioning what Tech Blog Builder does, what we do in our service, and a special offer for folks who were watching the webinar.
Sounds good.
So just a quick overview of who I am. My name is Matthew Rodela. I started in corporate IT, working for a pharmaceutical company when I first started in IT, and I went from the help desk to the server infrastructure side. And it's when I started getting into the infrastructure side that I realized that that corporate IT really wasn't for me. I really liked the aspect of helping users fix problems with their technology. And once I got away from that, I didn't enjoy my job as much. But of course, in IT, help desk is like an entry-level position, and you're supposed to move quickly out of the help desk into other things. But I was like, I kind of like the help desk, but they don't pay us very well, so I'm going to go off on my own. And I started my own IT business, and I ran that for a few years, and that was going well. And then I realized, as I was doing IT work, that what the aspect of IT that I really liked was the web side, and specifically building websites. And I'm a little bit of a creative-minded person, so I liked the creativity of building a website, and it's a good mesh of creativity and technology. So that's what I started focusing on, was building websites. But I still, had a lot of folks that I had met and got to know in the IT business space. So I decided to meld those two and offer a website service for IT business owners. And that's where TechSite Builder came from. And that is a hosted website builder platform for IT business owners that just don't have the time or the inkling to go out and build out their own website. And so that led to other things like our podcast, which is the Computer Business Marketing Show. And finally, this new service, which kind of grew out of TechSite Builder, where a lot of the customers on there were, struggling with creating blog content and getting regular blog content. And so I thought I would spin out a service to help them with that. And that's where Tech Blog Builder comes from. And so that's what I do these days, is run TechSite Builder and Tech Blog Builder. And then just a couple personal things about me. I am an animal lover, and I've got a dog in the house, and he is my coworker. And when working out of the house, can be, you know, you don't have a water cooler or folks to gossip with or anything like that. So having some other living being in the office is good for sanity.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
also,
he knows you're talking about him.
he just chimed in there, didn't he?
Hey, I'm a dog lover too, so I'm hoping mine keep quiet. So. But I know what you mean about having somebody to talk to during the day.
Right. Even if they don't talk back, that's okay.
Yeah, that's better.
All right, so we'll jump into why. First of all, why, right? We're spending this entire webinar talking about blogging and an effective blog post. So why do we want to write blogs in the first place? You know, it should go without saying that we have a website for our MSP business. And that website, you know, talks about the services you provide and who your ideal customer is. But a static website doesn't do very well these days. There's the idea of SEO. You want to make sure people can find you on search engines. And there are things you can do on your website for SEO and things you can do outside of the website for SEO. And one of the ranking factors, or a few of the ranking factors, revolve around fresh content. And also there's the idea that people spend a certain amount of time on your site. So time on site is good for SEO as well, and some other factors that blogging really helps to kind of boost the SEO for your website. It also helps you strengthen relationships with existing customers. So you have customers that you might have on some sort of service plan. A lot of times they might not know what you're doing for them, or they might, you know, forget what you're doing, and they might, you know, they might start to wander around looking for other solutions. And you want to remind them that you're there. You want to provide them value, and you want to maybe also promote some of the other services that you offer that they might not be familiar with. And a great way to do that is with regular blog posts. You also want to establish your business as an authority, and a great way to do that is by talking about the things you know. And you know, so again, constantly coming out with blog posts around topics that your customers are interested in will not only help your existing customers see you as an authority, but that's also a great way to get those prospects that are floating out there that might have heard of you or might be looking for a company to work with, and they see that you're releasing all this great content, you know what you're talking about. That's going to push them over the edge a lot of times. And the great thing about blog posts, unlike social media posts, is that they really last forever. They're not ethereal. You know, Facebook posts eventually go down the feed. Twitter posts go down the feed, and they get lost. Whereas blog posts, really, they're on your website forever. Google indexes them, and once you release it, it's going to continue to provide that SEO juice and that content for people to find about
So
your business.
that leads me to an interesting question is, you know, sometimes I know they're on there forever, but sometimes they age. And is it okay to go back and update a post, or should you just kind of let
Absolutely.
it go?
I think I just lost you there, Doug. I think your connection went out. But
Oh,
I think what you were asking was, is it okay to go back and update old blog posts if, for example, you're writing about a technology or some sort of, you know, something that's that has been updated or has changed. And of course, in the technology space that we're in, that's a constant, right? The only sure thing in technology is that things are going to change. And so, yeah, I highly encourage you to go back and update old content, and then publish, and that gives you an excuse to put it out there again. So you can go back to those old blog posts about, you know, some outdated technology, an old version of Office, or, you know, something like that. Update it for the new version, and then throw it out on social media and throw it out in your newsletter and say, hey, here's this post I wrote about before that's been updated. And Google likes to see that as well. So if you update a post, it'll be more likely to recrawl the post because it sees that something has changed, and then that might change the, you know, the way it wants to index that post and bump it up the ranks. So I would definitely recommend updating old blog content.
cool. Thanks.
Another idea is that it supports your other marketing efforts. So I like to think of a blog post as the seed that grows the rest of your marketing tree. So you write that blog post, and then from there you can share that blog post on social media. You can replicate that blog post in your newsletter. You could create a video around that blog post. You can create a podcast episode or some kind of audio recording with that content. So that content can feed into lots of different marketing channels, and it's the base. It's where it all springs from, and that's where you want to start from. All right, so hopefully I've worked to convince you that blogging is a good thing, and blogging regularly on your website has some benefits. One of the things, though, when you sit down to write a blog post is what to blog about, and we're going to get to that at the end of the presentation. But also, you know, one mistake I see when folks, especially folks who aren't, you know, content writers or, you know, a professional writer, is that they sit down and they write a couple paragraphs on a topic and they publish it and they call that a blog post. And think about, if you as a blog post reader, if you're, you know, researching a company to do business with, and you check out one of their blog posts, do you want just a couple paragraphs really quickly on a specific topic, or do you want, you know, an engaging post that takes you on a journey, gives you lots of information, gives you lots of resources, and makes it easy to skim through the article to see if the information that is there in the article that you want? So if you think of it from the reader's perspective, you want to give them a nice juicy article that they can sink their teeth into. And from you as a business owner perspective, you want to make sure that they have the best chance of getting through the entire blog post, of being entertained and engaged by the content, and then being encouraged to then reach out to you or read further blog posts or engage with you and your business further. And those are some of the ideas that we're going to cover in the 8 parts of an effective blog post. So an overview really quick is we're going to talk about captivating headline, relevant image, interlinking, varied formatting, subheadings, outbound linking, call to action, and how long should a blog post be. First thing, the effective blog post, part 1, captivating headline. So this is the headline is super important, because not only is it the thing that's at the top of the blog post that the people that see first, but it also shows up when you share the blog post on social media, and when you share a link to it. A lot of times the social media platforms now will grab the article code in the back end and take the headline and use that as the headline that shows up on the social media post. So that's usually going to be the first thing that people see, and that's going to be the thing that entices them to click. Now we've all seen, you know, those like BuzzFeed type articles that show up on social media that kind of try to feed into fear or try to mislead you into thinking the blog post is about one thing when it's really about something else. That's not what we're talking about here, because we want someone to get to the blog post and then be happy that they're there and continue reading through it. Whereas the BuzzFeed folks, they just want you to land on their website, they get those ad impressions, and that's all they care about. So we want people to take a step further than that. So we want to kind of think about our headlines a little more than just trying to get people to click. So here are some formulas that I think work well if you're trying to think of a way to write a blog post about something and you're trying to come up with an enticing headline. A good formula to think about is result plus period of time and plus addressing any objections, all within the title. So you really want to give them everything that they can expect from that blog post in the title. So for example, here's an example title: how to speed up your computer in 10 minutes. So how to speed up your computer is the result they're going to get. They're going to get a faster computer. The period of time in 10 minutes. Okay, so it's not going to take me that long. Awesome. Without using any software. So that means, you know, an objection that you might have heard from folks is that, you know, oh, I don't trust these these programs that say they're going to speed up your computer. I don't know what's legitimate and all of that stuff. So you can say, well, hey, we got some tips where you don't even need to download software to take care of it. And so you can kind of take any blog post topic and break it down into those things to really say, address objections, tell them it's going to be quick, and what is the result they're going to get from it. Another good formula is asking a question and then providing an answer that the blog post is going to provide for that question. So along the same lines as the first example, computer running slowly, question mark. And then the person reading that says, yes, it is. And so great, here are 5 easy ways to speed it up. So we're basically taking that same blog post topic and rewording the title to entice people to say, oh, you have an answer to my question. Okay, great. I'm going to click through and read more about it. And don't shy away from long titles. So you see these titles are fairly lengthy, and that's okay, because it's better to have enough information to make the person want to click through, because we're also qualifying leads in the headline as well. We don't want people to click on the link that aren't going to get anything out of the post. So we want to give them enough information for them to understand if this post is going to be useful to them or not.
Yeah, and I know, like, on that second one there, you've got the 5 easy ways.
Mhm.
A lot of times I know in other blog posts I've done and other marketing folks, that where you have like the 5 steps or 3 things or something like that, it's kind of it's a little catchy as well.
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
List posts are very effective if you can break
yeah,
down a concept into list items. That helps people, get through it quickly, and it creates kind of a structure around things that it's
yeah.
easier for people to read, for sure. And then the third title formula is what we call intrigue starters. So it's where you kind of leave a little mystery, and use words that are intriguing to people, that have been shown to get people to want to know more. So and it's basically the start of your title will start with one of these things, like the secret of, little known ways to, what you need to know about. So these are great ways. For example, the example we started with, how to speed up your computer, or 5 easy ways to speed up your computer. So in this case, it would be the secrets of speeding up your computer, little known ways to speed up a slow computer, what you need to know about speeding up a slow computer. So just, it's a very basic thing, but you're starting the title with something that's going to capture their interest, and they're like, yeah, I do. If it's a secret, not a lot of people know about it, maybe I'll learn something here.
Yeah. So when you showed this with the blanks on the last one, what you need to know about, I instantly went to the dark web. I'm like, that would be a good title.
Mm,
What you need to know about the dark web,
exactly. Yep.
because people don't know anything about it.
Right. Yeah, it's a mystery,
Yeah.
but they hear about it all the time, and
Hmm.
so they want to know, like, what's the deal with the dark web? What does it mean? Should I be scared of it? Should I, so yeah, exactly. All right, so now that we have the headline, the next, I think, most important thing about a blog post is the image. And this is something I see a lot of MSP and IT business owners skipping when they're writing their own blog posts. Is they put a bunch of text on a page. They've got maybe it's a great article, but they're missing the image. And here's some reasons why you want a relevant image in your blog post content. Um, well, first of all, when we're looking to choose an image, we want to make sure that the image matches the topic. So, a lot of times people will go out and grab a stock photo of someone using a computer and just throw it in their blog post. But we really want to make sure it's as relevant as possible to the blog post. We do want it to be colorful, bright, and or eye-catching. So it's got to be something that, as someone's scrolling through their feed or quickly, browsing, we want them to capture their attention somehow. Include people in the pictures when possible. So studies have shown that people are more likely to click through or to read content when there's an image of a person, and more importantly, an image of a person looking directly at the camera. There's just something about that pulls people in and helps them relate to whatever content they're reading a little bit more. That's not, required. Sometimes you're not able to find an image with people in it, but if you can, grab one. Something good to look for is to get professional photos of yourself and your shop. And this is something that a lot of people do. I mentioned you go out, a lot of people grab stock photos from stock photo websites, or something you shouldn't do is search Google Images and just grab something off of Google Images, because those images are not there to be used. There could be copyright issues for you taking those images and using them on your blog post. And the bigger companies will hunt you down. They have scanners that actually scan the internet and look for the image that they licensed. And if other people are using them, they'll contact you and ask you to take it down. So that is a thing that happens. So the best way to avoid that is either to sign up for one of these stock photography sites where you have to pay a subscription or something like that to purchase stock photos, or for free you can take some good professional photos of your shop, of yourself, of your employees doing specific tasks, or of you doing specific tasks. Screen grabs are good as well. And this is just a great way to get a super relevant image. And also, people like to see behind the scenes, and we're going to get into that a little bit later. People like to see behind the scenes of the companies they work for, and that's a great way to do it, by taking pictures of your shop or of your office space. Don't make it a link. So some content management systems like WordPress and others will automatically format the image and make it a link. So when you click on it, it links out somewhere. You don't want to do that. You instead just want to make it an image without linking it, because if someone clicks on the image and they go somewhere else, then that means they're not going to finish reading your blog post and they're not going to contact you, which is the point. And then for SEO purposes, you want to add the alt and title tags onto the image code when you add it. And if you don't know how to do that, that's something you can just do a quick search on Google to find out how to add those tags. But that's what search engines look for when it's trying to understand what an image on a website is about. The search crawlers aren't smart enough to look at the image and see what's in the image yet, but it is able to look at the code of the image and look at the alt tag and say, okay, this is an image about so-and-so, because that's what the alt tag says it's about. And and back to that really quick, the reason why you want images in your blog posts, and I didn't cover that in the bullets, is because, again, we're talking a lot of times you want to share these blog posts on social media. And when you do that, Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter is going to grab the whatever the first image is that appears inside the blog post, and you want it to grab that image as opposed to maybe grabbing your logo or some other image that's on the website that isn't relevant to the topic of the blog post, because you don't want to hit them with your logo yet. You want to give them educational, relevant, interesting information first, before you then say, oh, by the way, this is the name of our company and we can help you with this stuff that we're talking about. All right, the next effective piece of a blog post is interlinking. So interlinking is where you link to other appropriate pages on your site from that blog post. This is super important, and this is probably the number one easiest way you can get a big SEO boost from the blog post you're writing. So for example, you want to choose if you're writing a blog post about the dark web, for example, and you have a service that provides some sort of dark web scanning, then you can create a link somewhere in the blog post, and it's got to be contextual. So as you're talking about the dark web, you can say, there are ways to find out if your information has been stolen and published on the dark web, and there are various dark web scanners that you can use. And you take that word, dark web scanners, and you link it back to your dark web scanning service page on your website. And that's going to help with search engines, because when they crawl that blog post, they're going to follow that link that's linked to the word dark web scanning, and it's going to go to your dark web scanning page, and it's going to say, oh, this page must really be about dark web scanning if people are linking to it while they're talking about dark web scanning. And even though it's still on the same website, it still has an effect. So that's really important to do. Make sure it's within the context of your post. Helps with SEO as well as time on site. So if people want to go down the rabbit hole of learning more about specific topics that maybe you have other blog posts that you wrote about, then they can click a link and then get linked back to another blog post you wrote about, and you wrote about that topic, and continue down the rabbit hole of learning more and more. That's going to keep the person on your website, which is an SEO ranking signal. And you don't need to go crazy. Just 1 or 2 times is fine with interlinking. So that's a really easy win, and it's something some people tend to forget, but it's a great thing to do. Next thing you want to think about is varied formatting. So this is we're talking about things like numbered lists or bullet lists, bold, making text bold, italics, different kinds of formatting like block quotes or call outs, and then also throw in some embedded media if you can. So if you're talking about like a recent IT related story, technology story, like a Facebook data breach or something like that, then you can grab a video off of YouTube, and YouTube makes it very easy to embed videos into content on other websites. So that's a way that you can share that rich media without providing a link that's going to take someone away from your website. And then they could play the video, learn more about it, and again, stay on your website a little bit longer. And all of these different formatting options help to make your post more visually appealing. And it has been shown that someone is more likely to read through the full blog post if there are headings that help break up the content. It makes it easier to read. We talked earlier about lists, help to kind of break complex topics into easy to digest chunks. And it just helps, make the blog post feel more vibrant and more varied with these different formatting that you can add to it. Now, we're not talking about color or size. So this is back in like the 90s when people liked to, make different words, different colors, and to try to grab people's attention. I think most of us understand these days that looks very juvenile and that's not very professional looking. So don't do that in your blog posts. It can be tempting to do that because when you're writing a blog post on, say, WordPress or something like that, they give you the option to change the text color. And so it can be, hey, I have got the option to do it. I might as well play around with that. But it really kind of just takes it too far and distracts from the point you're trying to get across. Number 5 thing to make an effective blog post are subheadings. So talked a little bit about that in the formatting part previously, but the subheadings are really important. It's kind of like how chapters break up a book. You wouldn't want to read a book that's just text the whole way through. You want to have, chapter headings and then even subheadings under those chapter headings so that that this idea that you're reading about in this book is broken up into chunks and topics and subjects. And that's the same thing you want to do with a blog post, because when we get to at the end, when we talk about how long a blog post could be, you're going to see that the longer the better, basically. So if you have a lot of content in a blog post, you're going to want to break it up into different subheadings. So it's going to help you break up into subheadings. And so each section in your post, and you should really be breaking at least into like an intro, the main point, and then a conclusion. At the very least, at least put subheadings above those 3 sections of your blog posts. And it really helps the reader scan the article and get an idea of what it's about. We don't necessarily need our readers of our blog posts to read every single word of the post. Maybe, it's a list post and we just want them to, scan through the items in the list. And, it's up to them if they want to dig deeper into each of the topics that we're talking about for those list items. But we do want to make the blog post scannable. That's not a bad thing. It helps to structure the article in a logical way. Again, what we talked about earlier, and it helps with SEO because those subheadings, when in your website, you create like an H1 or an H2 tag that you wrap around those headings in the code, in the HTML code, and that's what search engines look for to understand what the topic of that blog post is. So some of your headings, if you add, you're talking about, and it's just going to happen naturally. You don't need to worry about keyword stuffing or anything like that. You're just going to say, okay, this is the section in my blog post where I'm talking about what the dark web is. So your heading could be, what is the dark web? The next heading under that can be, should I be afraid of the dark web? And that can be the heading of the second section. So you're naturally putting in the keyword dark web in there, and you're putting in other things that the search engines are going to pick up more prominently than just the regular text in the article.
Yeah, and I think you said something important. The tags, right? The H1, H2. It's important when doing this to not just make it bold, right, and then move on, but to actually highlight it and turn it into a heading. Whether it's whatever level of heading it is, because that's where you get the tags wrapped around it. Am I correct?
Yep, exactly. And that's Easy to do with any of the, content management systems, whether you're
Hmm.
using WordPress or Squarespace or Wix or Joomla or whatever. All of those provide an easy way to kind of create content and then wrap your headings with those H tags.
Yep.
Definitely worth doing. All right, item number 6, outbound linking. So we talked about interlinking, but we also want to talk about outbound linking. And some people will say, well, I don't want to link out to other websites because that's going to take people away from the blog posts that they're reading on my site. And that can be true. So you have to be smart about it. So here are some things to think about. So you do want to try to link out to at least one outside resource. It's got to be authoritative and trustworthy. Um, and it's got to kind of back up what you're talking about. And really what it's doing, what it's meant to do is it's meant to reiterate a point you're trying to make in the blog post. So if you're talking about, the dark web, and you can, throw in a link saying, don't just take my word for it. Here's an article that's on, CNN.com, or, something that people trust that talks about, the dangers of dark web, or what can happen if you're not on top of it, or you're not familiar with it. And so it's a way to just reiterate your authority and trust on the topic at hand. It helps establish you as a trusted expert because you're able to curate these outside resources. People like to follow other people who not only have good ideas, but are able to point people to other sources of good ideas. So you turn into kind of a curator in that respect. But really, where the secret sauce of outbound linking is, it's good for what's called your link profile. And that's an SEO term that when search engines are crawling your website, if they see a website that's only linking back to itself and it's never linking out to other websites, the trust factor goes down because trustworthy websites aren't afraid to link out to other resources, and your website becomes more authoritative in the eyes of the search engines if it links out to other relevant, trusted resources. Links work both ways. When you link out to another resource, that helps you look good in the eyes of search engines. So not only do you want people linking back to your website, but you want to link out to other people from your website. And outbound linking on your blog posts is one of the best ways to do that. You don't really want to do that on your services pages or on your contact page, or maybe not even on your home page. So a blog post is a great way to kind of add those outbound links to your website's link profile.
Now I have a quick question.
Yes.
Because you talked about you don't want people to click and then go off your site. What's the effect of having the link open in a new window? Is that good or bad?
That is good. And
Okay.
that's exactly what you want.
Because I wasn't sure if that hurts SEO or not. Because I know I always like to click a link and go to a new window instead of leaving the site that I'm on, so I can easily get back to it.
Yeah, as far as I know, that has no effect on SEO, whether it
Okay.
opens in the same window or a new window. And yeah, that's really what you want to do, because you're right. You don't want to take someone away from reading the article that they're reading that you wrote. But in order to provide those outbound links, you have it open in a new window or a new tab. And usually, again, the CMSs you're using will have an easy way to do that.
Hmm.
Or you can just search for the HTML tag you need to add to your link to make that happen.
Cool.
Finally, probably one of the most important aspects of your blog post that a lot of people miss is the call to action at the end. So you've spent the time to write this awesome blog post that's super informative, that has a lot of great information on it, and the person came away saying, oh right, this answered the question I had. Before they leave your website, you want to give them an action to take. Because if they've read all the way down to the bottom of the blog post, that means that it was speaking to them, that it's probably a topic they're interested in, and now what? So some things that you want to do is to ask the reader to do something at the end of the article, and you can link to your contact page saying, hey, and make it relevant to the article. So with the dark web scanning, you can say, hey, we talked about the dark web. Now you know what it is, and what you need to do. about it. If you want to have us scan your information on the dark web, or if you want a security consult, reach out to us. And here's a link to our contact page. And you can have the contact page, phone number. You can send them back to the relevant service page on your website. Another popular thing, and works into some kind of lead funnel, is to have a free resource that you've created, like an ebook or something like that, that's relevant to the topic. Then you can say, hey, download this free ebook. Of course, you got to give us your email address, and then and then they're now a lead that you can reach out to. Or something that's not as effective, but it's a lot easier, is to just say, hey, sign up for our mailing list, where we will give you more helpful articles like the one you just read. But all of these work to somehow get that contact in your list somehow before they're done.
Yeah, and this also, I think, too, on your website in general, is the importance of landing pages, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that when they click to do this, it has a dedicated page to do it. So that way you can kind of track, where that's going and how it's working, versus if they just put their email on at the end of the blog post or something, it's not necessarily, why is it, is it related to this resource or that? It's harder to track.
Yep, absolutely. And that's where you want to get. But I know some people, and why I avoid kind of going down that rabbit hole is
Sorry.
that intimidate some folks. They're like, oh, great, I got to create a landing page, I got to create an ebook, I got to do all this stuff. And really, the most important part is just trying to capture that lead somehow. So yeah, that's definitely where you want to get to. But that's not required. Just throw in a simple link to your contact page is great to begin with. And then once you're able to get those landing pages and get those lead magnets, then you can always go back to all of your old blog posts and update them with a link to that new landing page and that new lead magnet. And yeah, definitely,
Okay.
definitely the way to go. Yeah, no problem. No, that's a great point to bring up. Something we always need to be thinking about. And then probably the least effective thing you can do is ask people to follow you on social media. But some businesses really focus a lot of their efforts on social media, like maybe LinkedIn. I personally like to connect with clients on LinkedIn sometimes before I even do business with them, because it's a great way to kind of have a professional connection with them, where they can continue to follow you, but they don't have to go. It's not as big an ask as asking for an email address. Some people, especially in certain industries, are very wary of giving their email address away. So a easier ask is to say, oh, hey, just follow me on LinkedIn. And then they can connect with you there, and then you can continue to nurture that relationship on social media. But I would recommend just choosing one. So not having all of these, like a link to the contact page, a link to your phone number, a link to your services page, because then they'll have analysis paralysis and they won't take any action. You want to just give them the one thing that's the most important thing you want them to do, and give them no choice but to do that, and then they'll be more likely to do it. Finally, length, and this is this is one that is up for interpretation and arguments, and there's no scientifically right answer. It really depends. But here are some thoughts about the length of blog posts. In general, for SEO especially, but even for reader engagement, the longer the better. You want to really make your blog posts be like the exhaustive resource on a particular topic, because really these days blog posts are a dime a dozen, and we're inundated with blog posts from every company that's out there, and it can be a little overwhelming. So you really want to make sure that you stand out from the crowd, and a great way to do that is to just spend the time to make a blog post that's the #1 resource for that particular topic for your audience. And so the way to do that is to make it as long as possible. For maximum SEO impact, the ideal length is over 2,000 words. Neil Patel did a study on this, and he basically, through his KISS metrics and some other things that he does, he's able to see inside a lot of websites' analytics. and he saw that the longer the post, the better it ranked in SEO, and the kind of the sweet spot was 2,000 words and above. That's not to say that you write less than that, it's not going to have a good SEO effect. It's just, it's a numbers game, and you'll have a better chance of ranking better with over 2,000 words. But that's a lot to write. And realistically, not many of us are going to be able to write a 2,000 word blog post on any topic. It's just, that's a lot. That's a lot to write. So I think for my sweet spot for IT business owners, I like between 800 and 1,000 words. That's a good, that's enough to really drive it home on a specific topic, but it's not something that you're going to need to spend weeks putting together. Really, the idea here is whatever length that you decide to make it, you got to make sure you keep the reader engaged to the end. So that's why we talked about, throwing some videos in there, throwing some different formatting, throwing some lists. You want to keep them reading to the end. So that's really all there is to it. People say, well, what if, I see that there's blog posts that are, really quick, kind of quick bites, little snippets of, hey, here's just a quick thought I had. It's a couple paragraphs. That can be effective if you have a good following and you're able to bring people into that blog post who already know you. So that's a great way to kind of continue to help your existing customers with quick little knowledge bites. But that's not going to really be an effective way to pull in new followers, new subscribers, and new customers. You're going to want to give them a little more to sink their teeth into.
So I know you didn't, I know it wasn't necessarily part of the topic of an effective blog post, but what about frequency? How often should you be doing this? I mean, sometimes I'll go to an MSP's website and, they haven't put a blog post up for 3 months.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, okay, but, then other times it's like, well, they do 2 a day. So there has to be some sort of sweet spot on frequency. And I don't know if that's something you were going to get into or not, but I always kind of wonder about that.
No, that's a good question, and I don't think we were planning on getting into that. So that's perfect. So consistency is key, more than how frequently you're doing it, because again, my goal here is to get people to just start blogging consistently. So if I tell them you got to write a blog post every day, people are just going to say, oh, screw that. I don't have time. No, ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah.
So ideally once a week, but even once a month is enough to have an impact.
Okay.
So, I'd say at least once a month, but if you can do once a week, awesome.
Okay.
Blog topic ideas. So again, if you're sitting down to write a blog post and you're having writer's block, you can't think of what to write about, here are some ideas to get you rolling. The best source of blog content ideas are your existing clients. So think about, some struggles that your customers are having, and what questions are they asking, what are they dealing with, and then you can talk about how you solve the problem for that specific customer. And you don't necessarily need to give, specific names or specific business names, but you can say, I have this dental practice client who had this issue with this dental practice software that all dentists use, and here's how I overcame it, or here's what I did and what the results are. So really pulling from those real life client stories can help you make sure that your posts are relevant, because if it happened to a client of yours, it's probably going to happen to someone else that's out there. And someone else can say, oh yeah, that happened to me, or that's happening to me, and I haven't found a solution. And so you can really tie into that. Along with that, error resolution. So if there's a specific, in the computer repair world and the break fix world, there's like the blue screen of death, and people search, if that happens to them, they'll pull out their smartphone, because their desktop's down, but they pull out their smartphone and they search for that error message that's popped up on their screen. And, that specific error message, maybe the Microsoft article is the first article that shows up, but then right below that, oh, hey, here's, Larry's computer services is in my local area, and they wrote an article about how they fixed that error. And that's a great way to focus in on your target market. So if you focus on maybe, Outlook email is a big service that you provide, then you can talk about and write about those specific Outlook errors that pop up all the time and how you resolve those. How to is another great thing, so you can walk people through how to do specific things, and it doesn't necessarily need to be how to fix errors, but it can be how to get the most out of whatever, how to get the most out of Microsoft Teams, how to get the most out of your Amazon web services subscription, how to get the most out of whatever it is tool that they might be using, and that helps to establish you as an authority on that particular tool. You can dive into your services that you offer. So say you have a security subscription service that you have. One aspect of that could be the dark web scan, so you can dive deep into the dark web scan. Another aspect of that could be web filtering for the employees of the company, so you can dive deep into that component of that service, the web filtering aspect. And you can do that for all of your services, break them down into the itty bitty components of those services that you offer and write a whole blog post about it, because these are complex topics that can be delved deep into.
Yeah, so I had a quick question though, back on the how-to versus the service deep dive, right? Service deep dive is, hey, we're going to talk about this topic, like, what is the dark web, right? And then you offer a service for that, versus like a how-to, you wouldn't necessarily want to give someone all the information they need to do it themselves if that's a service you provide, right? So I would think the how-tos, you'd want to keep them somewhat basic, something that, maybe they can do themselves, but it's not going to affect your services.
Yeah, I like to focus it. I like to focus the how-tos.
Oh, you still there?
On a tool or Excel or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And that way it's not anything that you would bother doing for clients yourself, but it's something that they can do and get a quick win. Another good topic is behind the scenes of your business. So this is something that Tech Blog Builder customer of ours, Nathan Drager, he has a IT business shop out of is it Minnesota, I believe? And it's a small town, but he's kind of the dominant IT provider in that town. And the way he's able to do that is because he really has kind of that local community feel to his content, and he has a weekly podcast, video cast that they do from inside their office with their employees, where they're all gathered around a table and they're talking about technology. And he'll talk about they do a lot of things in the community with community outreach and charities and stuff, and so they'll write about that in their blog posts. So that's a great way to or you can introduce your employees and do like an employee profile. But that's a great way for people to connect with your business and get to know the people behind the service. Tech news is always a good one to stay relevant. So those are great kind of wells of content that you can always go back to time and time again to get new and fresh ideas for your blog posts. So really quick, I love, part of my philosophy is to teach people how to do things in their business, specifically marketing related things for their IT business. And then you could take that and run with it and write your own blog posts and get out there and hopefully take the steps that we talked about in this presentation and write effective blog posts. And you're welcome to do that. And a lot of people like doing that. But if that's something that you just don't have the time to do, or if you don't like to do it, or you're just not that good at it, that's kind of where our service, Tech Blog Builder, comes into play. It is a content writing service. We write 100% unique articles, and that is how we differ from some of the other services that are out there that might repurpose the same article and give it to lots of all of their customers to use on their websites. That's not going to be personalized to your business. That's not going to help you very much with SEO. It's just a way to continue to get content. But there, as we talked about earlier, there's more to content than just publishing it. We want it to be effective. We want it to really speak for your business. So at Tech Blog Builder, we get to know your business. We get to know, are you a laid back company, or are you very straight laced and you're trying to serve corporate clients? And then what services do you provide? And then we write blog posts around those services with your unique voice in mind. Another thing that sometimes happens with blog writing services is they'll use non-native English speakers to try to get the cost down and pump out a lot of blog posts. But then of course you notice that when you're reading the blog posts, even if it's someone who says they're fluent in English, there's quirks and there's idioms and stuff that they just don't grasp unless they're a English native writer. And so that's all we use for our blog posts. The posts are written for your business. Like I said, it follows the formula I laid out in this presentation. So we make sure to include everything that I talked about in the blog posts that we write. And we try to package it up in a very affordable package so that it's more affordable than if you were to go out and hire a writer on your own, because we're able to process, build a process around it and make it very easy for us to deliver it for you to save you money on your end. So we're talking, $60 per post for 2 blog posts per month. And then it gets even lower for more blog posts per month after that. And then just really quick, this is kind of one of my favorite testimonials from a user of Tech Blog Builder. We wrote a blog post for him on a managed service blog, and it only had about 40 hits, which he didn't think was too high, but it got him 1 signed MSP contract from that 1 blog post. And that's really what you can expect from well-written blog posts. Is you might not get a lot of traffic because, like I said, we're qualifying people through the blog posting process. So the post is not going to be for everyone, but it's going to be targeted at your ideal customer. So as long as it's targeted to that ideal customer, in this case, he got 2 new deployments out of it. The $200 investment for that month of blog posts resulted in $1,200 for his business right away. So that's kind of what you can expect from a well-targeted, well-written blog post. It attracts those ideal customers and gets them to take action. So if that's something you might be interested in, then I just want to throw out a special offer for you guys, specifically for viewers of this presentation. I want to offer you guys 20% off any of our packages, and you can go to techblogbuilder.com to check out the packages we offer. This will expire in 1 week, so for those who are watching the replay, you'll still be able to take advantage of this. And all you got to do is use the coupon code MSP Voice at checkout on techblogbuilder.com to take advantage of that deal. And now, awesome. If any folks or Doug has any questions, happy to answer that for everybody.
Well, I know I asked some questions, through the process. Now, in terms of, like you said, you get to know the business. How does that process normally work? You set up a call, you talk to them, you understand what it is that they do. I mean, how long does that take if someone does?
So we, through our onboarding process, we ask some questions around, who is your ideal client? We take some time to visit your website and look at the services you offer, look at the type of content you currently have on your website. And then we take all of that into consideration when we start writing your blog posts. And then every month before we write your blog post, we ask you, what topics, are there any topics you want us to write about? Maybe there's a new service you have, maybe there's something that you want your customers to learn. So we're not kind of trying to assume that we know what you want to talk about. We ask you every month what you want to talk about. If you can't think of anything, then we'll come up with topics that we'll say, hey, what about if we write about this, or what if we write about that? And so it's a constant dialogue and constant communication month after month to make sure that we're writing about what you want to be written about.
Yeah, and that's good, because if there's something that, this month I saw a lot of this issue, or I saw a lot of these questions, then you can say, hey, I need some articles on this because this is coming up a lot recently, and then you can address it and hopefully lead to more business.
Right, and we don't have visibility into that because we're not running your business for you. So there's no better person than the business owner. And that's where we hope to separate from other similar services out there that might just automatically be churning out blog posts for you on whatever topic they think might be of interest to you. We
Yeah.
really, partner with you to figure out what you want us to write about.
Awesome. I don't have any questions from the audience, but anything else that you want to say here in wrapping up?
Cool. No, I just, I think content marketing is really where the marketing world is headed. I think that's a good content marketing strategy will help you stand out from the crowd, because not a lot of other IT businesses are focusing on content marketing. And if you just take the time to really do it right, and be consistent about it, then you're going to, again, build that authority, build that trust. People are going to start to follow you, and you're playing the long game with a good content marketing strategy. You might not get tons of customers right off the bat, but you're building up a library of useful content that people are going to be able to find through search engines, through social media, and then after a while, you're going to have this library of super relevant content that you can point people to when they have questions, when you're trying to do outreach. And you can say, hey, I wrote about this before. Here's an answer to your question. And that's just going to further establish you as an authority. And the best way to do that, like I said, is to get started with the blog post writing.
Yeah, definitely. And I know, a lot of IT business owners, especially if they're owner operator, they only have 1 or 2 employees, it can be difficult to find the time. So, having services out there where they can contract and get that one thing off their plate, at a reasonable price, I think is important, and it's important to know about.
Absolutely. And on techblogbuilder.com, we even have an example of a blog post we've written for someone, so you can actually see what it'll look like and what you can expect from it. And then we also have a couple other packages where we'll also create social media posts for you and create a kind of a viral video around the blog posts we write. So we have some
Awesome.
higher level tiers of that service to get even more impact from the content.
Cool. Well, maybe we'll have you back on how to create a viral video.
Yeah, yeah, we've learned quite a bit from doing that ourselves. So
Great.
absolutely.
Matthew, it's been very informative for me, and I'm sure it's been informative for our listeners and our guests. So I really appreciate it. And everybody check out techblogbuilder.com and take advantage of that special offer.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right. Have a good day.
You too.